Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our second virtual Plan for Jobs event, a chance for us to meet and talk to some of the leaders and trendsetters who are helping drive our economy forward, particularly at this difficult time. So today, our focus is all about innovation and entrepreneurship. Delighted we've got an all-star panel to talk to you today, and they're going to introduce themselves in just a second. But first of all, take a step back. Why is this so important? I am deeply passionate about all things entrepreneurial, all things innovative. And that's because those types of companies and those types of fantastic people driving those companies are hugely important for creating jobs and for creating new ideas and for creating prosperity in our country. We've seen lots of that happening during the pandemic, and I know looking forward, we're going to see lots more of it coming from all our fantastic entrepreneurs. We've obviously done our bit to try and support all of that in government with the various initiatives that we've put in place, notably something called the Future Fund, which helped get capital to start up businesses. But there's a range of different ways we're keen to try and support this fantastic group of innovators. We'll talk more about that today. So without further ado, enough about from me. Let's hear from our brilliant panel. I'll let them all introduce themselves. Why don't we start with you, Charlotte? Do you want to just let us know, and then we'll whiz round?
Thanks, Chancellor. My name's Charlotte Crosswell. I'm Chief Executive of Innovate Finance, which is the industry body representing the UK fintech sector.
Fantastic. Who have we got next? Tom.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Tom. I'm one of the co-founders at Honest Burgers. We started our business back in 2008, 2009-ish with a £5,000. We bought a marquee, a grill and a fryer. And we started serving burgers at weddings and food festivals and anyone that would have us, really. And fast forward 10 years, we're now a national burger chain. We've got 40 sites and we employ 550 people.
Brilliant and inspiring. Okay, next. Saravanan.
Hi, I'm Saravanan. I'm the CTO at Monolith AI. We're a small startup working on AI software for the engineering industry to help them reduce cost and environmental impact of their products. We're a 20-man startup.
Brilliant. Okay, Theo.
Hello, I'm Theo Paphitis, shopkeeper. My shops are Ryman the Stationers, Robert Dyer's Ironmongery, and Boo Avenue Laundry. And when I'm not shopkeeping, I'm an entrepreneur as well, investing in other businesses. And now and again, I'm on this TV show called Dragon's Den, which I've loved doing for the last, 12 years.
Brilliant. No introduction necessary. Okay, and then Melissa.
Hi, I'm Melissa Ranger. I also work at Monolith AI. I am the People and Culture Manager there. I joined in October, so during the lockdown and everything. So it's been a fantastic ride so far. I'm really happy to be here.
Brilliant. Great. Well, thank you all for making time today. And I should have said this right at the beginning, actually. Please online throw in your questions to me or the panel. I know we've had lots already, but we'll keep seeing them as they come through and try and pick up as many as we can in the time we've got. So let me crack on with the first one. Right. We've got one here. The pandemic has changed the way everyone does business. How did you adapt, and what support has been key in helping you through the crisis? So, Tom, why don't we start with you?
Okay, yeah, big question. We to begin with, we had the first issue we had tons of food. In the first lockdown, we had tons of food that we needed to get to a good home. So we turned a lot of our stock in our prep kitchen and butchery. We turned it into ready meals, and we made about 9,000 of them and donated them to local hospitals and local schools through an amazing charity called City Harvest. And then the business side of us, we've set up a burger DIY kits, which have been really positive now. We've got a lot of traction on them, and they're basically all of our same ingredients you get in the restaurants, but you get them in a nice, neat little box delivered to your home nationwide, and you can cook your burgers at home. So that's been a real great sort of new project that's come out of lockdown. And then we've really had to adapt to our restaurants being delivery only, which is not something I'd ever thought I would say. And it's been a real challenge to keep our guys motivated, because they're, you go into hospitality because you love human interaction, you love chatting to people, and you love that kind of energy you get. So to go into a delivery only business has been difficult, but one that we're obviously very grateful to have in these difficult times.
Yeah, and I think you're doing a live cook along later, aren't you?
I am, yeah. I've got about 85 people I'm going to be doing a Zoom cook along with, which is always a little bit chaotic, but good fun. Yeah, and again, we've just been overwhelmed with the amount of businesses that are supporting us and giving us opportunities to do things like that. So we're super grateful.
That's fantastic. So Charlotte, how about you? What have you seen changing?
And certainly within the fintech sector, you can imagine the pace of digitization that was caused by COVID, and obviously, Tom, in your business, but every financial services giant was suddenly turning to technology, every consumer, and even SMEs who are looking to get the government loans. Many of them used fintech companies. So what we saw was this explosion of fintech opportunities there, driving forward just incredible change, whether that was you using your online banking app for the first time, getting a government loan, but in turn, some of those use the Future Fund to expand their own businesses at a time that was challenged. So I think we just saw the consumers and businesses and the way they interact online really driving forward that change, and incredibly exciting for the sector.
Yeah, and I think we see that in all the data that we see here at the Treasury, actually, both on the consumer side, whether it's online shopping or online banking, but also on the business side, small, and Theo probably talked this a little bit as well, even in my own constituency, small, independent retailers on high streets going online for the first ever time because they had to, and thinking about other ways of doing things digital. They've had to do that for the crisis, but I think all those benefits will stay with us, hopefully now, for years to come. But Theo, on the retail side, obviously it's been really difficult with what's happening more generally with high streets, and the lockdowns obviously don't help. But how are you finding retailers adapting to all the change, and what's helped?
Because like Tom, we were a physical retailer with some online presence, and overnight we lost our income, bang, and 5,000 colleagues just went home. And we were just looking and saying, right, how do we now convert ourselves into what is relevant for today? And blatantly going from a physical retailer to an online retailer had many, many challenges. But it's amazing the ingenuity that you create and you find when you're met with these challenges. And through the first lockdown, we were just all working from home, whereas before we were choosing geographically where we recruited our colleagues and everything else. So that's changed now. We can now recruit from the whole of the UK, whereas before we looked at where's an hour's traveling time from the office. And we went totally online. And that kept us absolutely afloat, along with, of course, generous help from yourself on business rates, which is great. And long may it continue, Chancellor. But I'm sure Tom agrees. We're now focused very much to what has been a 5-year acceleration, at least, of the adoption of online by the consumer. And that will not go away. That will now remain, which means when things get back to normal, we're going to relook again at that historical part of our business.
Yeah. And Theo, you, I think, employ, as you said, thousands of people. What has it been like at times when obviously they couldn't go to work? I don't know if you've used the furlough scheme, or how have you managed to just keep your employee base intact and motivated through this crisis? Have the schemes helped? How have you protected those people's jobs best you can in difficult circumstances?
Well, no question. Without the furlough scheme, we would have had to make wholesale redundancies. And I do mean thousands upon thousands. That allowed us to actually retain our workforce. So when we actually opened again, we could hit the ground running, even with the difficulties that obviously you get, because footfall is still considerably down. So the furlough scheme allowed us to retain our colleagues and not go through mass redundancies. In fact, hardly any at all, and retain our colleagues. The business rates allowed us to maintain our physical stores, which hopefully will allow us to get back to where we were when things return back to normal.
Fantastic. And then, Saravanan, how about on your guys' end? Obviously, new startup, different. You're used to being innovative and entrepreneurial anyway. So how was all of this for you guys?
Yes, definitely smaller scale than some of the others. But even so, 20 people, you don't want to make any redundancies. The startup's obviously low on cash as it is. So this made it particularly difficult. We're quite reliant on industries like aerospace, automotive, which of course both heavily hit. So furlough scheme was one that helped us support some of our colleagues who, without an office and not going to events and conferences, their jobs would otherwise be redundant. And then the Future Fund really helped us keep our staff going through the difficult part at the start of the corona. And then as the automotive and aerospace industries were able to spend again, and they were looking for ways to cut costs that didn't require redundancies, and then coming to Monolith, we're now able to help them and help us grow as well. So really having that Future Fund to get through the difficult first few months when business was at all-time low really helped us see it through, and now we're able to pay that back and continue to hire more people and give more jobs.
Oh, that's fantastic to hear, and brilliant how you're now using your technology to help companies in these challenged sectors, improve their productivity and keep their people employed as well. And that's absolutely great. So next questions come in for fantastic quick answers for these. If you were thinking of starting a business, what's the one piece of advice you would give? Tom, do you want to have a stab at that, and then we'll go to Theo?
Don't let yourself talk yourself out of it. Is my only kind of not very eloquent piece of advice, but it's one of the best things that Phil and I did when we set up Honest Eating Company, which prior to that, and Dorian came along. We just went for it. We didn't hold back. We weren't afraid. We were obviously quite young and potentially a little bit naive, but we went for it wholeheartedly. We put everything into it, and we did something that we were passionate about, something we loved, and that makes it a lot easier. So yeah, just you've got to take that first step, and then the rest is easy. That's not true at all.
But good optimistic spin. Theo, what?
For me, it's that old adage: make sure you do your homework, because 50% of all small businesses fail in the first 2 years. And that's because they just haven't done the research and the homework to begin with. People ask me and say, where did the BBC get those people on Dragon's Den that turn up asking for money and they don't know their numbers? Well, welcome to the real world. Unfortunately, that's what happens. So do your homework. Make sure you're going to do something that you're passionate about, because running your own business, and Tom will tell you, and Savannah will tell you the same, everything doesn't go right first time. Lots of things, lots of hurdles get in your way. So you've got to have that passion where you can lift yourself in those difficult times. And above all else, make sure you've got enough cash flow, not profit, cash flow, because without being able to pay the bills, you will die off. So make sure you finance yourself properly, do your homework, and make sure you can bore your mates mad in the pub talking about what you do.
Brilliant. We need to get our pubs open so we can go and do that all over again. Right, there's a question that's come in from Chelsea. I think this is probably perfect for Melissa and Saravanan. I'm thinking about taking a job at a startup. Would the panelists recommend taking the risk at this time? Melissa, do you want to have a stab at that?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say go for it. Take the risk. I've worked in a couple of startups, and it's amazing. There always is a risk, especially in these times, but I think the benefit actually outweighs the risk at the moment. Startups are full of really amazing, passionate people about what they do. It's really easy to just crack on with an idea. If you want to do something, you can do it. There's a lot less red tape, I think, than some larger companies. So yeah, definitely. I joined a startup during COVID, and it's the best decision that I've made. So yeah, 100% do it.
Excellent. Right. Saravanan, what's your view on that?
Yeah, I have to add to that as a big startup fan. I think it's joining a startup's always risky at any point. I think at this point, other jobs have their own risks as well. So the difference maybe not as big as it normally is. But yes, startups are still alive and kicking, and also innovative. So just building new opportunities, new types of jobs are appearing. And so to stay ahead of the curve in kind of as the world is changing, a startup is a great place to learn new skills and adapt.
Brilliant. We've got another question in from Jonathan, who's just on the call. He runs an e-commerce business which specializes in outdoor building materials, which started from his parents' driveway. And his question, and maybe Charlotte, this is a good one for you. What's your advice on the best way to get investors on board, but not only just for funding, but also how do you go about finding good mentors and mentoring?
It's a great question. In fact, if I would have one, my piece of advice would be find some great mentors. The ecosystem around the country is incredibly strong for startups now and for angel investors as well. So wherever you are in the country, you can plug into that startup ecosystem, find an e-commerce ecosystem, go and find people around there, go and talk to angel networks about potential investors. And to Theo's point, do your research, but my research would actually be find other people who are doing the same, and find people what they did wrong, what you can learn from them, and then people come in and support you through the whole journey, and you stay friends for life. But there's so much help out there, either from those really early stage investors or other startup entrepreneurs who really want to help the next set come through. It's not a competition. People are very, very willing to give advice and help.
And Tom, have you found that you've had people you can draw on for some of that support as you've been growing the business?
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, I was nodding my head frantically, Charlotte. I was agreeing with everything you're saying there. I think honest, if I started honest on my own, it would be nothing compared to what it is today. So my business partners, Philip and Dorian, and we've got an amazing exec team of specialists. Like, very few people on the planet have the skill sets to develop a business in its entirety. And you need to know your limits, and you need to know what you're good at and what you're not good at, and admit that, and don't kind of go down with the ship. You need to bring on the right people. And food is my passion, and that's what I kind of deal with. But Philip is more of an operator, so that kind of partnership works really well for us. So yeah, I wouldn't certainly if you're going into a food business, it's very stressful, long hours, and it's incredible, but it does take its toll on you. And to be able to spread that stress and that workload across people and people you trust, and obviously good ways to get trust is to give equity to people if you think they're the right people, and partnerships and co-founding, things like that. I thoroughly recommend it, because I don't think I would have got honest off the ground on my own, but I know I wouldn't have. So yeah.
No, I mean, the power of teamwork and good partnerships is
massively, yeah.
Theo, this is a very good one for you. A question from Robert, who's watching live. He says, how do you create a culture of innovation in an organization that currently has a culture of playing it safe?
Well, sadly, that's exactly what COVID has done. Because where we held on to things because we were safe and we didn't want to change things because historically it always worked for us, COVID has, for all of us, made us look at things in a different way. And the lessons that we have learned, every business person I've spoken to has said exactly the same thing. Their business will never be the same again because they have learned from the way we've had to adapt, innovate, change things during this unprecedented event. And hopefully it will never happen again. But I am positive that UK business will come out of this far more leaner and more efficient. Let's not say it won't be painful. It has been painful, but we'll be smarter for it afterwards.
Yeah, it's taking what we've all had to experience difficult things, and it's trying to find some of the silver linings in that, and what can we take and make into a positive going forward. We've got two questions which we can take together here. Similarly, it might be a bit more for me. David at Cryptic Shell, and one from Alexandra at K&R Legal Services. What support does the government plan to provide entrepreneurs seeking to upskill the unemployed, and in what ways does the Chancellor feel he has encouraged innovation through the pandemic? I can talk a little bit about people and how we're trying to provide help to people. And sadly, as you've heard, it's been a difficult time for many, and we know lots of people have lost their jobs, and that's why you'll hear me relentlessly talk about this plan for jobs, and today is a plan for jobs event. And everything I'm geared to do is trying to protect, support, and create as many jobs as possible. So a couple of things I point you to. One is our Kickstart scheme, which is where the government is fully funding high quality jobs for young people who are at risk of unemployment. We've had thousands and thousands of businesses sign up to take part, tens of thousands of placements offered, and we're going to grow that so that hopefully over time, 250,000 young people will become young Kickstarters, and rather than be scarred by coronavirus, they found a fantastic opportunity to kickstart their career. I think the other thing is encouraging innovation, and maybe Sarah, I get you to talk about this, and Theo talked about the importance of cash flow. We as a government, I recognise that, knowing that we've got all these fantastic companies that we wanted to be there on the other side, but we had to help them get from here to there. And lots of private investors were maybe going to withdraw from the market during the crisis. So we wanted to step in and say, look, we want to help provide some capital for some of these innovative businesses, but do so in a way that means the taxpayer, because ultimately it's your money we're using, is protected best we can. And we're going to try and get a good return on that cash. And it's going to the right types of businesses. And we created something called the Future Fund to do exactly that. And I don't know, Sarah, if you want to talk about your experience, I know you guys at Monolith benefited from that fund, and how did it work? How did you find the process? What exactly did you get out of it?
Yeah, definitely. So as I mentioned, we're kind of struggling business-wise at the start of the corona, a huge amount of uncertainty of what's happening next. And as most businesses in uncertainty will shut off new spending, as is natural. So for us, kind of the Future Fund helped us make sure that whoever the people who were already hired could keep their jobs, can keep innovating, so that when things die down a bit and we're able to work with these companies, we're already there and able to support them. It meant we could hire for new roles. So people who were made redundant, we're able to create jobs. It's not quite on the order of magnitude of some of the other retail industries, but it's kind of the little that we can do. So hopefully that fund has gone directly back into providing jobs for people who really needed them.
Brilliant. And then we've got a question here a question from Karen Campbell at AB Sugar is asking about support mechanisms, are there any in place for BAME entrepreneurs and to help increase the number of successful BAME owned businesses. Just on that point, maybe I can answer that, Karen, is that about 2/3 of all the companies that the Future Fund that we set up has helped have a BAME founder as part of their mixed ethnicity management team or solo. So that's been really good. We also have a program called Startup Loans, which the government offers loans of up to £25,000 for budding entrepreneurs when they're getting off going. That program has been disproportionately beneficial to those from a BAME background as well. So hopefully that gives you some comfort and reassurance that we're keeping an eye on that. Right, we've got another fantastic question here from Darina Mystery from Talentful. What are the key mistakes that lead to a startup failing? Right, Theo, why don't we start with you?
I think it's the things I've already spoken about, and that is understanding what you're going into and doing your homework. Consider the fact that things are not going to go always according to plan. Don't just listen to friends and family because they are so nice to you because they want to encourage you. Go and seek help. Speak to other entrepreneurs, other people who are in the industries. I set up a small business network 10 years ago. Only seems like yesterday. And it's called Theo Paphitis SBS, hashtag SBS, Small Business Sunday it's called. We now have 3,000 small businesses within that network. Now, 75% of those small businesses are run by female entrepreneurs. And what they found was amazing, and maybe the female entrepreneurs do better than us fellas, is the ability to network with each other and support each other and absolutely share that experience and that knowledge base to help them succeed. And that for me is one of the key factors. We touched on it earlier. It's the basics things. Business isn't that complicated as long as you do the basics right.
And Charlotte, do you have anything to add on that?
No, I mean, I think we're just seeing this, this proliferation of new business ideas across the country now. A lot of them driven by COVID, and thousands of job opportunities and businesses that you can start. I mean, certainly in the fintech sector, just so many entrepreneurs of all backgrounds can start a business. When I talk to the founders already with businesses that are hiring these thousands of jobs at the moment, they're looking for people with different backgrounds, because guess what? Financial services serves people from different backgrounds as well. So I'd say that get out there, do your research, but also look at where you want to make things better. I represent an industry trying to make financial services better and opening up access, but incredibly exciting opportunities there for jobs, and I think go out and find them.
Brilliant. Melissa, for you, I've got a question here from Jackie Kendall from Kendall Cars, and she's asking about how do you think we can better incentivize young people to innovate and to consider entrepreneurial experiences? I mean, you've obviously you've transitioned from different things. It'd be great to get your perspective on what more we collectively should be doing in this area for Jackie's question.
Yeah, I think it's really important for young people to kind of be supported in their dreams and their goals and what they want to do. I think, back in the day, there was kind of only set paths into your career. People stayed at companies for, 20, 30 years and things. But, young people, they've got these amazing ideas and dreams and business ideas, and they want to start them. So I think what everyone was saying before on, mentorship, I think business is offering that, internships as well, really honing that creativity from people rather than trying to maybe not fit them in a box, if that makes sense, finding out what makes people tick and then encouraging that and giving them that support as well. I think that's really key.
Brilliant. And I think we are almost out of time. So let's make this the last question. And here we've got a question from Andrea Richards at Expedient Recruitment, who's watching the live stream. It's a good general one to end on. How do all of you think about the outlook for new businesses post the pandemic? And, what do you think, where do you think the great opportunities are for growth in our economy? Why don't we just whiz round and get a quick optimistic note to end on from everyone? Sarah, why don't we start with you?
Slightly biased here. Obviously, digitalization is a big aspect of all companies, and so adapting to that and finding new jobs or moving new jobs can often be a way to kickstart a new career.
Brilliant. Tom, I know you're going to just be excited to have your restaurants open and have us all back in there eating rather than watching you on our iPads. But what are you excited about and optimistic about?
Well, I'm hoping that we've all got a huge amount of pent up kind of excitement to go to your local restaurant and support your local restaurant and see your friends and see your family and all these things we've been dyingly missing so much over the last 12 months. So I really hope that's the case. And yeah, honest is just, we can't wait to open our doors to all of our loyal customers.
Yeah, I mean, I talk a lot about hospitality when I'm in Parliament and giving interviews. From an economy perspective, it's such an important part of our economy. 2 million people who are employed in that sector, and they're disproportionately younger, less well paid women. So as a matter of social justice, I think it's really critical that we try and do what we can to support the industry. But also, as you said, Tom, it's part of the vibrancy of our communities, right? It's what makes life partly worth living, brings our towns, villages to life. And I know we're all itching for it.
It's such an incredible industry. I'm obviously as biased as anyone could be really about it, but for me, it's a platform for a lot of people. For other people like myself, it's a lifelong career. But hospitality can be anyone's first job, and it can boost your confidence. I got my first job when I was 14 as a glass collector in a local pub, and I felt so much more confident just speaking to grown-ups, back then, and developing my people skills and learning how to to talk to people in different environments and deal with the public is a real skill set to have. So I think the hospitality industry has such a great place in our hearts for developing people in our industry, or to grow into other industries as well.
One of my first jobs too, long nights that were hard. Right, let's go very rapidly from getting hurried out. I didn't get to talk to many people at first. I was just clearing things up. But anyway, wasn't trusted as much as you were. Melissa, very briefly, go. Melissa, Charlotte, and Theo. What are you optimistic about for the future? Where's the growth going to come from?
Yeah, I'm really excited for 2021. We doubled in size last year, so we're 10 to 20 because of future funds. So now that I'm in the business and we're hiring this year, I'm looking to hopefully double in size, maybe, fingers crossed. So yeah, and see everyone face to face as well when we can.
Brilliant. Charlotte, I mean, obviously you were talking about fintech. It's a big part. We're very good at it in this country. It's something we should all be very proud of. But where do you see the growth opportunities going forward?
My message would be, you don't think of financial services as walking into a bank anymore. Think of financial services as one of the most innovative sectors that's reforming itself at the moment and changing and creating jobs that we would never have imagined 10, 12 years ago post the financial crisis. So if you want to be an entrepreneur in this sector, whether it's e-commerce, whether it's savings, whether it's helping people with their pensions or getting new businesses loans, there are roles in fintech, and those are outside of London. Those aren't just London, they're all over the country. So yes, come and find out more.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, actually. And we think of financial services as being London, but there's actually more people employed, I think, outside of London in financial services than in London. It's really a UK-wide success story. Go on then, Theo, last word. What are you optimistic about, excited about? Where's the growth going to come from?
Well, wherever there's disruption, there's opportunity. And so I think our recovery is going to be entrepreneur-led because they can move quicker, they react quicker. And I'm just saying to everybody, don't just lay in that bath looking for that eureka moment before you start a new business, or you'll shrivel up. You don't have to have an original idea. If you see something, you think you can do it better and there's a better need for it, that's what you go for. So entrepreneur-led, that's the future for me. And online retail has got a massive future.
Brilliant. Well, an enormous thank you to everyone on our panel. Thanks for everyone for tuning in, for your questions. It's been a fantastic discussion. Hopefully, we've all learned a little bit through the course of this, and we'll keep doing them. But I think, that's the most optimistic note that we should end on. I mean, yes, things are challenging right now. We know they are for so many people, but I think we can look forward with hope and optimism because of people like all the panelists we've had on this call, people who are engaged in creating new ideas, new products, bringing that innovation, that energy, that drive, that creativity to their work. I think we are going to create new jobs, new businesses coming out of this, and it will give us confidence in the future of our recovery. So thanks for all providing us with a bit of inspiration and hope through this difficult time. Thanks for everyone for joining, and look forward to seeing you on the next Plan for Jobs virtual event. Bye from me. Pleasure. And bye from everyone else.